in a body of water. There was cars floating in the middle of the water. Some of the homes were total losses. I would say the most significant damage that I saw was on Fort Myers Beach. Some of the homes were wiped out, and some of it was just concrete slabs. Of course, there were damage to some of our infrastructure, particularly the Sanibel Causeway. There were breaks in that in multiple different areas. It was interesting. The pylons on the water, where you had that part of the bridge, that actually was good. It was the point where it was on a sandbar that just got totally wiped away, or from the mainland, there was breaks there. So that's going to require major overhaul and potentially a complete rebuild. They're going to look at it and see. That's the only way on Sanibel and Captiva Island. So the operations to help people there have been mostly by air. In all told, search and rescue operations, it started in the wee hours of the morning. As soon as the winds died down enough to where it was safe, you had Coast Guard assets, you had urban search and rescue teams. We've had the National Guard out assisting people. There have been more than 700 confirmed rescues, and there's likely many more than that that will be confirmed as more data comes in. People have been rescued from places like Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, Marco Island, as well as the barrier islands in Charlotte County. Obviously, there was a lot of calls coming in as the storm was really raging yesterday. People who did not evacuate were hunkered down. There was storm surge. There was a lot of apprehension, understandably. When initially the first responders came this morning, people would wave them down, whether they were by helicopter, boat, or high water vehicle. Now what they're finding is on places like Sanibel, most of the residents are just waving thank you for coming, but they say that they're fine and that they're staying put. Now, I think that there's going to be issues with being on some of those islands because they're not going to have services like we expect for quite some time, given the limitations of transportation. But nevertheless, that's a sign that some of the folks who did ride it out are stabilized in their home. They are first responders are doing targeted searches, just going home by home, checking to see if people are okay, and then responding to specific reports if they're missing loved ones. There will, of course, be many more rescues that are added to the tiller. Now, we absolutely expect to have mortality from this hurricane, but I'll just caution people, there's a process by where that is confirmed, and there's people, I know that people have said certain things. In terms of confirmed, that will be made apparent over the coming days. But I think the things that have been said out there, that is not something that has been confirmed at this juncture. Of course, we have thousands and thousands of people on the ground working to restore power, opening the roads, bringing in food and water, and restoring communications. Talking with local folks in Lee County, probably the biggest immediate hurdle that they're facing is their county water utility had a big water main break. That is necessary to be fixed in order to provide basic water services for the residents of the county. So they have been working to troubleshoot it. They requested the state to enlist federal support to help diagnose and potentially fix the problem. So we worked with FEMA and Gracia, and the Army Corps of Engineers came in. I mean, they came in pretty early. I think Kevin called them maybe like 3 a.m. They were in Southwest Florida from Jacksonville by early this afternoon. And so they're helping to diagnose and hopefully be able to remedy that. But that's going to be something that's very, very important for the county to get fixed. In the meantime, we are assisting healthcare facilities to provide working water because they need that to be able to take care of their patients. We're shuttling water from Lakeland into healthcare facilities. Right now, there are about 20 trucks en route with 60,000 gallons of water for a total of 1.2 million gallons of water. And I think they have been able to fix some of the water-ish. One of the 3 hospitals has actually been able to fix the water problem there. So that's good news. Port Tampa, Port Everglades, the fuel is flowing in to some of our major ports. And so you're seeing a lot of fuel now flowing throughout the state. More than 330,000 gallons of fuel have already been moved in to Southwest Florida. I actually saw a couple of the gas stations open in the Fort Myers area when we were there today. With this fuel, the state of Florida set up 6 fuel depots to fully support all first response efforts, and we think the remaining ports in the state of Florida will open between sometime tomorrow and sometime on Saturday. There's been a massive amount of supplies staged. We're also bringing more into the region, more ambulances, more food, water, and ice, more generators, more. Actually, we're bringing in 2 full-service mechanical shops to help to repair and maintain emergency vehicles, which, they're in rugged conditions when you're going through water and others. Bringing in more tarps, bringing in kits for parents of infants and toddlers to give them 10 days worth of support, and bringing in more high water ladders. Now, as of 6 p.m., there are 2.6 million approximately reported power outages throughout the state of Florida, and that was anticipated. So far, compared to this morning, 200,000 accounts have been restored in Southwest Florida, 28,000 in Lee, 62,000 in Sarasota, 14,000 in Collier, 33,000 in Manatee, 12,000 in Charlotte, and 44,000 in Hillsborough have been restored. Of course, the pre-staging for this was over 42,000 linemen, so they're there on the ground, really in different parts of the state, but particularly in Southwest Florida. When they first got in there, of course, they're looking to see what is the damage, how much of our infrastructure has been destroyed, how much of it has held up. And I can tell you, when we were in Charlotte, the reports were generally positive that a lot of that infrastructure had been able to weather the storm. You still have to work, obviously, to reconnect the power, but in some areas you may need to rebuild from the ground up. In other areas where the infrastructure maintained integrity, you would be more just trying to rehook everything. So that's a 24/7 process. So if anybody sees some of the utility trucks pulled over somewhere and maybe someone getting rest, understand they're working constant shifts and everyone's on the clock the whole time, and they don't actually ever have a time where people are not working. So we really appreciate that because we understand how important it is for folks to have those basic services resume. There have, of course, been damages to cell phone towers, particularly in places like Lee County. The telecom companies have brought in, they earmarked 100 cell phone towers being set up, and many of those are being set up in Southwest Florida. I've been able to speak with the CEOs of both AT&T and T-Mobile. While there have been damages, a lot of their infrastructure has weathered the storm fairly well. So while there may need to be repairs, they feel good about getting up service. And I know some people do have service in those areas, and we were able to see that. FDOT had more than 1,200 personnel on the ground, and I'm happy to report the road situation is by and large really good. I think if I was just talking with Kevin before we came out here, if we were here yesterday at like noon, thinking about what the road situation would look like, I think we thought that there would have been way more roads that were blocked by debris. Of course, we did have the Sanibel. I mean, there are issues, but there's also a lot of roads where the traffic is flowing on I-75 without a problem, and most of the other roads are doing really well. Sunshine Skyway Bridge has reopened, and so we were happy to see that. Most school districts throughout the state will be reopening either Friday or Monday. Obviously, Lee and some of those areas may be a little bit different calculation for them. We're thankful that FEMA has activated individual assistance for Floridians who've been affected by this storm. If you are in need of help recovering, visit disasterassistance.gov or call 1-800-621-3362. FEMA has approved our request to add some of the Central Florida counties into the individual assistance. Kevin will have more details on that, but we appreciate that because you look at the images, like you can see a house that's been totaled on Fort Myers Beach, and obviously it's a very sad thing to see. You can see boats that have been flipped over or cars that have been flipped over, and those are very striking images. But as the storm has moved through the state, it has caused a lot of problems with really historic flooding in parts of Central Florida and into Northeast Florida. And so it's important that those folks also have the ability to get assistance if they need it. Over 8,700 people have already registered with FEMA. If you're gonna make a claim, take a picture. If you've had flooding, Take a picture of the water line on your house. Make sure you're documenting the damage. Jimmy Petronis, our chief financial officer, is going to be doing insurance villages at these disaster recovery sites. So if you go in, now you don't need to go in to get FEMA assistance. You can do it online. But if you have questions, you go in. You can have people from the different insurance carriers. Jimmy's also going to help people who have NFIP flood policies to be able to file those claims and get those claims paid as soon as possible. And we expect that will be done without much delay from the insurance carriers. We're happy that a lot of businesses have committed to provide our first responders and volunteers with sustenance. Culver's, Firehouse Subs, Burger King, Four Rivers Smokehouse, Anna Maria Oyster Bar, and Texas Roadhouse, and we think many, many more will want to come and also offer assistance. For those who are coming in as either first responders or linemen, Buc-ee's is giving away meals and soft drinks. If you stop in their Daytona location, you'll be able to avail yourself of some really good stuff there. We're continuing, as Kevin has said, these first 72 hours are really life safety, and then working to restore the main services, power, fuel, and communications. And there's massive numbers of people on the ground working 24/7 to do that. Of course, it's too early to know exactly what the needs of everybody is going to be, but we obviously anticipate some Floridians may end up being displaced from their homes, and the First Lady is spearheading efforts with Volunteer Florida to activate the Florida Disaster Fund, where people can donate. And it's much better to donate financially than to send items, and we really appreciate the thought when people want to send water, they want to send these things, but Florida DEM and others have been contracted for this, so this stuff is there. The best thing you can do if you're going to give a financial contribution, that can go to some of these organizations that are a little bit more nimble with how they help people. FEMA, Gracia will say, you have statutes and you have regulations and you have things. You either qualify for certain types of individual assistance or you don't. They're not able to go outside of what Congress has decreed on that. A private organization, if you have more unique needs that maybe aren't covered by that program, they can meet those needs. And so providing the cash assistance is the best way to do that. If you want to contribute, go to www.floridadisasterfund.org or text disaster to 2022. Actually, what is it? It's more than 20222. Okay, well, I'll let the First Lady do that because she does it better than me. They put text to 2022 on this, and that I know it's more than that. I'm not a text guy, but I do know you need more numbers than that. All right, for those who want to come volunteer in person, that's another way where you can really be helpful. And Volunteer Florida has a website for that, www.volunteerflorida.org, if you want to see volunteer opportunities. And we would certainly welcome individuals that want to give, obviously, their money, but also their personal time and effort. Okay, Kevin Guthrie's here with some additional updates.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, First Lady, for your going out to the area today and doing some on-site assessments. We're entering that phase of the response where we start to really get into what's referred to as indirect deaths. Myself and the governor have been mentioning this now for quite some time. Generator safety, generator safety, generator safety. Now we're going to start adding chainsaw safety, getting on ladders, getting on roofs, watching out for power lines that are mixed inside of trees. People need to be extremely careful. If you do not know how to use a chainsaw, if you do not know how to climb a ladder, if you do not know what the difference is between a cable line and a power line, you should not be doing that. Leave that to the professionals. Again, as the governor indicated 2 days ago, we have significantly more indirect deaths from disasters that are 100% avoidable than we do the disaster itself. So please be safe. Drone pilots. We're starting to have some issues with drone pilots in areas. Please do not operate your drones in the areas where we have military aircraft, search and rescue aircraft working. When you go in there with their drone or your drone, they have to stop working. Please stay out of the area and let us do our job. Similarly, we saw it down in Fort Myers today. People are wanting to go out and look at the damage. For every car that's going down a street, that's preventing a power line crew from getting in there and working. It's preventing a search and rescue crew from getting in there and working. Please stay outside these areas so that we can get in there. Power outages are being restored. The governor read through a laundry list of individuals that are having power restored. We did hear a question earlier today about, well, it's still 2.6 million. It was 2.6 million this morning. Jacksonville has been hit. We have power outages in Duval County, St. Johns County, Nassau County, Baker County. So those are going to offset here for a little while. FPL, the Municipal Electric Association and its municipal electric partners, the cooperative electric programs are getting their stuff turned back on. Please be patient. We have every faith and trust in them to restore the power. However, in places where we're going to have to rebuild infrastructure, that's going to take longer, as the governor mentioned. Fort Myers Beach, Sanibel, Pine Island, that's going to take some time. In those areas, we do have some other challenges. There is potentially vehicles in the water, there are potentially boats in the water, there is potentially debris in the water. We will be working with our federal partners to mission assign or ask their request and mission assign special resources to go in there and start looking under the water to do an underwater survey to ensure that we can actually get the necessary barges and heavy equipment into those areas to respond effectively. I think this is an appropriate time to say, Gracia, thank you very much for all your assistance. Admiral McPherson as well as the TAG, General Eifert, has been with me since day one, sitting here. He was there at 0700, which means he had to leave St. Augustine at 04 something. Thank you very much. We continue to mobilize additional resources to impacted areas. Specifically today, we did more than 400 bottles of oxygen, 100 ambulances, an additional 120 utility trucks, 4 mobile triage units. These are specific units to help triage patients if somebody becomes injured. We do have hospitals that have some issues and cannot intake patients. So this is the ability to triage individuals for that. 60 truckloads of water, 40 truckloads of meals, 40 truckloads of ice. That was a question earlier a couple of days ago. We have brought in additional pet foods, supplies for displaced pets. 5 truckloads of blankets, 5 truckloads of cots, and I believe this was requested earlier by someone, nearly 100,000 tarps. FDM recovery staff are now beginning the process of rapid damage assessments in the impacted counties to expedite all available federal assistance for the disaster recovery. The governor mentioned earlier that additional counties have been added to the Category A debris removal expedited declaration and IA, or individual assistance. Those counties are Orange, Osceola, Seminole, and Polk. Again, these counties are available for 30 days at 100% in federal assistance. I am going to turn to Gracia and ask, what is that website that we need to direct everyone to for mobile intake?
For registration.
For registration.
For survivors, it is disasterassistance.org.
Disasterassistance.org. So again, we're proud that 8,700 people have already done that, and we want to continue to do as much as we can via web registration. Again, Governor, First Lady, thank you so much for your leadership today.
Okay, First Lady.
You have been listening to Governor Ron DeSantis and emergency leaders talking about the recovery effort here in Florida after the devastation that Hurricane Ian reached across this state. The governor saying that he's visited Lee and Charlotte counties, which were really the hardest hit areas, saying that there is no quick or easy fix to any of this. It's just going to take time, but they are starting the process of rebuilding and getting people the help they need. 700 confirmed rescues just last night alone for the people who did not evacuate in parts of Southwest Florida. Now, we're going to continue to stream this news conference from Tallahassee online at clickorlando.com if you'd like to continue watching and hearing what they have to say. The governor's wife, First Lady Casey DeSantis, is speaking right now. But again, if you would like to listen to the rest of this news conference, you can go to clickorlando.com. And of course, we will have a wrap up on the news tonight at 11 o'clock.